Hey, Disney cruisers, and welcome back to the DCL community where we are here to help you plan, prepare for, and get excited about your Disney cruise. You guys know me. I am your host and your admin, Rebecca, and we are so excited tonight to be talking all things Castaway Club, booking windows, and check-in. These things that just kind of stress people out in their Disney cruising experience, and we're here to tell you it doesn't have to be stressful. So as you guys are coming in, please say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. But as people are coming in, Laura, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Laura. I'm with Fairy Tale Journeys Travel, and I am here to answer all of your Disney Cruise Line questions about the Castaway Club or check in or any of those questions you might have, any of those stresses, booking windows, and hopefully take the stress out of it for you.
Yes, and Laura is extra amazing because she actually will stay up and help you book some of these things. Just a reminder, her planning services are totally complimentary. So that's the link to her page on the DCL community site. So feel free to reach out to her. But stay tuned, guys, because at the end of this, we're going to actually walk through the entire check-in process. So get your pen and paper ready. But yeah, let's
Yes.
go ahead and oh, just before I forget, if you guys have questions as we're going through this, please submit them in the comments and we will do our best to get to all of them. And let's go ahead and let's kick off with what actually is the Castaway Club and what are the different tiers?
Okay, this is an easy answer. So the Castaway Club is actually automatic enrollment for you once you take your first steps on your first DCL cruise. Um, it is their reward program. And it goes up in tiers. So once you sail your first sailing, you're automatically silver. Then there's gold, and then there's platinum, and then there's the new pearl tier. And each of them have their own perks and bonuses. And of course, the higher you get, the more perks you get. And it's so much fun.
Yes, agreed. So let's go ahead and let's walk through what these perks are and what the different levels are.
Okay, so silver members, you just have to sail once and you're automatically enrolled. So you would have a castaway number once you disembark. I'll tell you where you could find that later because I think there's a question about that.
Yeah.
So for silver members, they get to book the new itineraries one day before the general public gets to. They get to book their cruise activities 90 days prior to their sail date, and they get to check in and select their port arrival time 33 days prior to sailing. So that's already a jump up from when they first sailed because they couldn't do anything till 30 days and their
Mhm.
activities were 75 days. So they're getting a lot of extra time in there. They get an exclusive cruise terminal check-in where available because remember, sometimes Disney ports out of other places and they might not have separate check-in lines for different tiers, but you get a Castaway Club tier for silver and gold. There's a Castaway Club member exclusive phone number where you get to communicate and you get member communications. If you use a travel agent, you won't ever have to call that number.
Mhm.
And you get a welcome back gift in your stateroom. And if you've been following any of the pictures, right now they're giving out that 25th anniversary swag according to your level. So
Yes, and are those here to stay, do we know, or are those gonna get switched out after the 25th?
I
No.
think it's while supplies last, and we
Got
all
it.
know they ran out of Wish inaugural before the inaugural season ended.
Yeah,
And happy Wish Maiden. I
I
was just stepping
know.
off the maiden voyage this time last year.
I
So
can't believe
happy
it's
birthday.
been a year, and the exciting news about the treasure coming out. Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh,
such exciting stuff.
right?
So, the gold member, you have to complete 5 sailings. So, on your 5th sailing, this is where people get confused. You sail your 5th sailing, you're still silver. It's once you
Mhm.
complete the 5th sailing. So, on your 6th sailing, you will have a gold lanyard waiting for you in your stateroom. You get to book your itineraries 2 days before the general public. You get your cruise activity booking 105 days. So that's a real nice little bump.
Yeah.
And you get to check in and do port arrival time and activities 35 days prior to sailing. 7 nights or more. There's an onboard reception for gold members, and that's where your discounts start to happen in the gift shop. So you scan your card, they know you're a gold member, they take 10% off whatever you're purchasing on board.
Yeah.
And you still get all the Silver Castaway Club benefits. So you still get your own separate check-in line, and you get a Castaway phone number to call.
Yes. And with all the shopping that I do on board, that discount does not hurt.
Yes. And then platinum. And everybody strives for platinum. You have to complete that 10th sailing. So on your 11th sailing, you are platinum. You get to book your itineraries 3 days earlier than the general public. So that means more availability. You get to add cruise activities 120 days prior to sailing. That's a lot of days.
Yeah.
Select port arrival time and complete online check-in 38 days prior to sailing. And they add a complimentary dinner at Palo or Palo Steakhouse on the Wish.
So good.
That could be brunch. It's any meal. So it's for you, and anybody in your stateroom gets a free meal, which is such a great benefit.
Yes.
Plus, all of the Silver and Gold Castaway Club member benefits. You have your own check-in line for, now Platinum's with Silver and Gold.
Yes. It's
so
nice.
Very exciting.
I was going to say, just for Palo alone, the best.
It's
the best.
Fabulous. Pearl. I'm Pearl. So I've been Pearl for a long time. I just needed this tier to come out. So they just brought this for the silver anniversary. It just started in May. You just need to complete 25 sailings. You get to book your new itineraries 4 days before the general public, meaning you're first. You add cruise activities 123 days prior to sailing. You get to select your port arrival times and complete check-in 40 days prior to sailing. You get that unlimited digital photo package free. They just add it.
Nice.
So that all your photos, you don't have to pay for photos anymore. And you get all of the benefits of silver, gold, and platinum. I can say Pearl has its very own check-in line by the concierge. If it's in port, if you're in a port that has that, and you still get your free Palo.
Oh, that is so great, and things that I know I'm striving for at this point. And you mentioned concierge. So if I'm concierge, am I still kind of tied to my tier, or am I in a different group?
So if you're concierge, you really don't have to worry about your tier, because you are booking things 130 days. Your concierge host books your activities 130 days prior. So they really are the first of the first. But that has nothing to do with booking new itineraries. That still is going to Pearl members first. You don't have to worry about a port arrival time if you're concierge. You could show up at the port whenever you want, as long as the port's open. Don't go at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And then you're first to board the ship. So those are concierge perks. They have nothing to do with your Castaway level at all. I am under the impression that we should really look maybe in August or so for maybe Pearl members not needing a port arrival time anymore. It's out there that it's possible, and maybe I checked in and had something happen for an August cruise. So I can't make any official announcements. We don't know. Maybe it was a glitch, but I'm kind of thinking we should keep our eye out on another perk coming back that was taken away after COVID.
Yes. For those who don't know, Platinum cruisers used to be able to just walk on whenever. Port arrival times weren't really a thing. When you got to the port, you got a little number, and that was your boarding group. All this check-in process didn't look the same at all. So having this
is
Pearl
all right. This is like, we're post-COVID, but they kept some of their check-in process as it's COVID. It takes a lot of work away for the port workers. Easier to get it done from home. But hopefully we'll see some of those pre-COVID perks come back soon.
Yes. And question, how do I actually know what my tier is? And you already answered, when can you get the benefits on that next cruise?
Okay.
How do I know my tier?
So to find your tier, if you go to the Disney Cruise website and you log in, so you have to log into Disney Cruise Line, which is the same as your My Disney Experience login, which is the same as your Disney Plus login,
Mhm.
and go hover over already booked. At the very bottom of that list is a link to Castaway Club. And if you click that link to the Castaway Club, it will give you your Castaway number. It will tell you what tier you are, and it will tell you what benefits you have. And they even brought back all of your old sailings.
Oh,
That
that's
was gone
great.
for a while, but now it's back. You could see the staterooms you stayed in, the ship you sailed in, the date you sailed. It's kind of cool. So they brought that back. So that is
Oh,
still loaded in there. Very easy to find.
love that. Love that they're making things easier on the website and not more difficult. And
Exactly.
I love some of the questions that we're getting, guys. We're going to get to your questions here in just a second. But if you're traveling with people who are in different tiers, so if I'm in a stateroom with my better half who's never cruised before, do I have to wait for him? Does he get to go with me? And what about if you're in separate staterooms, but it's the same reservation?
Okay. So the stateroom itself, your travel party in your stateroom goes to the highest Castaway Club member. So if I'm traveling with my husband, he's platinum on Pearl, we're going to get the Pearl benefits in the stateroom.
Mhm.
Um, Now, if I'm sailing and I bring a friend in another stateroom who's silver, she still has to wait for that silver booking window and that silver check-in window. That doesn't matter. So it's going to
Mhm.
go by stateroom, not by travel party.
Got it. Good to know. And that's the same even if your reservations are linked?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Good to know.
My biggest thing is that, I do this for my clients all the time. If it's really important that they book together. So if you have somebody cruising who's new, you're bringing somebody, just take somebody out of your stateroom. If, let's say, you're gold, put them in that new person's stateroom, take somebody out of
Mhm.
their stateroom, put them in your stateroom, and that gold person will allow in the new stateroom booking. And it
Yes.
stays that way on paper. It can't come back. So when you're sailing, they don't care who's sleeping in what room, but just
Mhm.
understand that there is a way to
Yes.
do it.
Yes, that's such a good point. I know people get kind of frazzled when somebody's booking excursions, but the rest of their party can't book yet. So that's kind of a nice workaround. And that's the knowledge that working with someone like Laura can bring to the table when you're kind of navigating this first situation. So let's do some of these questions really quick before we get into the check-in
Sure,
process. And guys, like we
sure.
said, we're going to go through step by step the entire check-in process. So stay tuned on that one. Um, so we've got somebody saying they hope 2025 is going to come back in San Diego. Definitely let Disney know about that because
We're
as much,
hoping.
yes, right, that'd be a good one. How much are photos usually? Do you
So
know?
it depends on length of sailing and what photo package you want. So on a 4-night sailing, if you did the unlimited, I believe it's like $299 for your stateroom to have unlimited downloads of those photos. You could also pick packages of 10, but then you have to kind of pick the ones you want to download. And there's a lot to choose from by the end of the cruise. 3 nights are a little less, and of course, the 5, 6, and 7 nights are going to cost you more than that. It could get up to 350 depending on how many nights you're sailing. Definitely worth it.
Yes.
To have these pictures.
Yeah, especially with all the magic moments. Now you can be holding
Oh,
Tinkerbell on board. You can be back with, Donald, and
even on
Donald can also be
Castaway,
there.
I
Oh,
have pictures of splashing with Chippendale in the
oh,
water and
that's so cute.
I'm
Oh,
feeding Flounder my ocean burger. So,
I love it.
the photographers are out there literally in the water with you. So I think they're very worth it.
Yes, agreed. And then how far out? We have been getting this question
Oh,
nonstop. You got
this question is, I feel you. Like, I know you want to book that far ahead, and I wish I had that answer for you. All I can say is we just started booking the fall winter of 2024.
Right.
So the first cruises that are going to be released for 2025, and there are a few out there. Um, Somebody's going to correct me and they're going to say, I
Yeah.
saw January, February. Those are only sailings in Australia. They're
Yeah.
finishing the Australia sailings. So those can be booked into 25. But that's it.
Yeah.
We won't see January, February, March, or April fall.
Yeah.
So then we're looking another season to get to May.
Yeah.
Eh,
I was
follow
good.
my page. You'll be the first to know as soon as I know. I post those booking windows
Yeah.
um,
And I
as
was
soon
going
as
to
I hear
say,
it.
is Laura's really good at if you kind of get an idea, right? Disney's fleet is growing, so new ships are being added, new
Mhm.
itineraries are being added. But what you can do is kind of have that conversation with Laura now about this is what we're interested in, this is where we're based out of, or where we want to fly out of. This is about how many nights we're thinking of, so that when the itineraries come out, not only will Laura notify you, but she can already say, this is what I'm thinking based on everything you told me. And then she can help you book that cruise. She can sit on hold with Disney for 87,000 hours.
Which I do happily.
Right. Right.
And I already have a 2025 wait list.
Oh, wow.
I already have people waiting because they're waiting. I have some clients waiting for that global dream for
Yeah.
Singapore, which is supposed to happen. So, I already start my 2025 wait list.
Oh
So
my
you want to
gosh.
join it, just shoot me an email and tell me what you're looking to do. And the minute I get word of any itinerary, I let you know.
Yes. Okay. And I'm going to put Laura's link in the comments so that everybody gets it and you know where to find her, because that's definitely a wait list that you want to be on. If you are flying in with a higher level guest, so whether you're driving to the port together or flying in together, can you get on the ship together if you don't have the same port arrival time? No.
If that's the case, if you know you're flying on another, you just because you flew in or you're traveling together, it's not going to change your port arrival time. So my
Hmm.
suggestion is that you all pick the same port arrival time. So
Yeah.
if somebody got an earlier time and I'll give you a perfect example. I'm Pearl. I got an early port arrival time for my cruise in April. Everybody else was either platinum gold or had never sailed before. So the latest port arrival was 12:30 for us, but I had a port arrival time of 11. I waited. Well, I wasn't going to board the ship without my family. So you can board the ship together. You could be late for your port arrival time. You just can't be early.
Hmm.
So I suggest that when you do your check-ins and port arrival times, you pick the same port arrival time, or you just go with the later one.
Yes, agreed. And then speaking of check-in, what's the difference between the check-in that we're going to go through step by step and the activity booking window?
Okay, that's easy. So the check-in process is where you're giving Disney all of your information, your proof of citizenship documentation, your how you're arriving, your flights. Are you taking Disney transfers? This is where you register your kids for Kids Club. So that's the check-in process, and
Mhm.
that's where you get your port arrival time and your boarding group number. Your activity booking is earlier. So that's based on your status. And that's when you get to book your port adventures, your tasting, your bibbity boppity, whatever you want to do on the ship, spa. Um,
Mhm.
the only thing you can't book in your activity booking would be Royal Court for the princesses. That opens at 30 days for everybody at midnight. So
Yeah,
there are some activities and hair appointments, 30 days. Um, so there
got
are
it.
some things you have to wait for, but for the most part, your activity bookings are all done based on your Castaway club, and
Yeah.
we did that.
And this is the question that we get nonstop, even in the comments today when we were sharing about this event. Well, I'm a first time cruiser. I'm worried that there's not going to be any activities left for me. I've paid all this money and I'm not going to have anything to do on the ship. I get that all the time from people. So,
And the comments, guys, I was reading them. So why would somebody like me go in and book a tasting? because I enjoy them. And because I too once was a new sailor who might not have gotten into one, and now I can. So,
Mhm.
don't be judgy on the people who can get them because they've sailed a lot to get to their tier.
Yeah.
Now, all of that said, if you're a first time cruiser and you get to the booking window and you open it up and you see sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out, we aren't going to panic. We aren't going to worry. We aren't going to
No.
stress because people cancel these. People cancel their
All the
cruise
time.
all the time. People decide, you know what? We don't want to do that activity and they cancel it. So keep checking the app. But here's the other important thing to remember Disney didn't give up all the inventory. They know the tier system. They did not give up every appointment and every spot and every tasting. So once you board, you should go to either the Royal Court or Luna, depending on what ship you're on. And there will be people there. There will be Palo to get you a brunch that you couldn't get when you didn't see them
Mhm.
online. You can go to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. There's always appointments left.
Yeah.
Don't fret. You can go to the Port Adventure desk. You can go find tastings. There are slots. So, to the people commenting that you're out of luck and it's impossible, it is not impossible. As a matter of
Yes.
fact, I have more clients get what they want sitting in the port when they hook up to the Wi Fi.
Mhm.
They're grabbing the Royal Gathering. They're grabbing a tasting because the slots are opening once you're on the
Yes.
ship. So, yes, you might see sold out, sold out, sold out, but there will be something left for you. All
Yeah.
that to say, you don't need a tasting to have a good time on a Disney cruise.
Nope.
You don't need Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique to have a good time on a Disney cruise.
Mhm.
Um, it's not a waste of money if you don't get these things because you're on a Disney cruise. So there's all these free
Yes.
activities on board. So please stop stressing about this stuff. It makes
That's
me
so
stress reading the comments. So,
right. Oh my gosh, it just breaks my heart seeing these people who think that they're not gonna have a great cruise because
oh,
all the
I'm like,
just so
yes,
you
you
guys
are.
know, yeah, and
Listen to Rebecca.
people don't understand that the activities that you see in the Navigator app before you board, those are simply the pre-booked extras. That does not include all of the entertainment on board, the crafts, the shows, the dance parties, the character meet and greets, the competitions, the fireworks. Like there's so much to do. The movies. There's so much to do on the ship that you do not need to book ahead. And I mean, I've been on over 20 Disney cruises and I have never done a mixology class. I just did my very first tasting ever on my last sailing. And guess
Mhm.
what? We keep coming back because there's so much to do on the ship that you don't have to do a single extra thing and you're still going to have a great time.
And the funny thing is that even when we book these things, I've been on deck, and personally, I did this on my last cruise. I had a rum tasting on Castaway Key.
Ooh.
I didn't want to leave Serenity Bay. So I
Mhm.
walked through the ocean.
Yeah.
We had 3 slots. So I walked through the ocean and I kept saying to people, "Does anybody want to go to the rum tasting?" And I
Wow.
sent 3 people to the rum tasting
Oh, that's
because sometimes
awesome.
and I've seen it on deck all the time. They're having such a great time either with the kids or in Quiet Cove, or they said, "You know what? I'd rather be in the spa than drinking."
Yeah.
And they don't go, which means there's a slot that's open.
Yeah.
So you might not even want a tasting. After all of this, you might be like, "Ah, this is breaking up my day."
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's such a good point and reminds me, I don't know about you guys, but that reminds me I should cruise with Laura specifically when she has tasting so that maybe I can snag one from her. But seriously, with all of the love in my heart, please do not stress about not getting these extras. They are just that. They are extras. You're still going to be able to meet the princesses. You're still going to be able to see the movies. There's plenty to drink on board. Don't stress. Don't stress,
And if you
guys.
want to see the cutest pictures in the world, go to my personal Facebook page.
Yes.
The characters come out at night and they dance in the atrium while pictures are being taken. So my
Yes.
grandkids were dancing with Mickey and Minnie and Mulan, and Cinderella came out. Like, relax.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
Disney.
right. The whole scarcity mindset, I think, has been with COVID. There were a limited amount of reservations, which I understand, but we promise you guys, you are going to have an amazing cruise if you do not book a single extra thing, and you'll have a really amazing one if you book it with Laura.
For sure.
Uh, just extra plug there.
Yeah, thank you.
So lots of so many great questions coming in. Okay,
Oh, I see one.
which one?
Would you be able to download the photos without the internet package or connection? The answer is you can actually do that because that comes with the free Wi-Fi. And actually, on the first night, when you're having your first pictures taken in the Grand Hall or the atrium, depending on your ship, people from shutters will be walking around with a QR code, which you scan, that will open, and it takes a little while for the pictures to show up, but you could download them right from your phone,
Mhm.
right on the free Wi-Fi that you get on the ship. You don't need the internet package at all to do that. You
Oh,
might need it if you want to send it to your friends, but if
yeah.
you're downloading it, you don't have to do that.
Yes, so true. And then what's the likelihood of an early port arrival time if this is your first Disney cruise?
Can we discuss this for a second?
Yes.
Okay, an early port arrival time. The ship doesn't clear customs until about 11. It's got to
Hmm.
get all the passengers from the last cruise off. They've got to clean the whole ship. Every crew member has to come off, clear customs, and then the ship itself clears customs. So if you have the earliest port arrival time, which I think now is 11,
Yeah.
you're not starting to board till 12. So you're going to stand there in the terminal.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rush is. So if you don't get that earliest port arrival time,
Hmm.
don't fret, because you're actually in a better position if you have a later one, because they're already calling boarding groups.
Yeah.
So remember, it's not your port arrival time. That's not your boarding time. Your port arrival time is the time they're going to let you into the port. Your
Mhm.
boarding group number is when you get to walk on the ship.
Yeah.
So you could be port arrival time 11:15, boarding group 8.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't start boarding till 11:30, you're still not on the ship till after 12.
Yeah.
So my point being, don't worry about that early port arrival time. Everybody's going to get on the ship. You're going to have a great day, and the chances of you being able to get to the port and walk right on the ship is that 1 o'clock port arrival time.
Yeah. That's so true. Don't stress about that one either. I
Don't
know
stress.
everybody wants to get on board as quickly as possible. We did get a question about can I do the Disney parks before I board the ship? Would you recommend that?
Same day, never.
Same day,
I
never.
would not recommend that at
Yeah.
all. If there's traffic on I-4 before you get to the 528 to come to Port
Mhm.
Canaveral, that ship's not waiting for you. Disney buses, if you take DCL transportation, start leaving the resorts at noon. That's very little park time.
Yeah.
So you're really chancing it, but if you have to do it, go early, do whatever you can do, but be out of the park before 10:30.
Yes.
Um,
Agree.
don't chance it. The ship's not waiting for you. They're
Yeah.
pulling the gangplank at 3:30.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. And
Bye.
before I forget, what time does the activity window open up to book, and what time does check-in open to book?
Midnight.
Midnight
Eastern
East.
Standard Time.
Yes.
So even if you're on the West Coast, it opens midnight Eastern Standard Time.
And is
Um,
it okay if I work late or I work early or I just have kids and they are exhausting, and if I don't stay up at midnight to check in, am I still going to be okay the next morning at 7 a.m.?
You're going to be fine as long as you're not stressing about your port arrival time.
Yeah.
Also note, people cancel. So if you don't have a port arrival time you like, keep checking and you can
Mhm.
change your port arrival time. Just keep going in, modify check-in, go to port arrival. We'll show you where that is soon. Um, And then you can always see if you can get it earlier. But don't be
Yeah.
up at midnight if you can't be.
Yes. So true.
Sometimes the system, everybody's doing it at once.
Chaos.
And it's chaos and it takes longer than it should and everything circles. So sometimes it's just better to wait till morning anyway.
Agreed. And after this, we're going to get into the actual check-in process. There's so many great questions that are coming in, and we want to get to all of them. But last
I
question.
see one that's important. Go
Yep.
back one.
Oh,
So when
missed that.
we nope. So
Oh,
when we do our check-in online, do we still bring our documents? Yes, yes, yes. If you don't bring those documents to the port for them to check, you
yeah,
need you need your passport to disembark the ship when you get back to your port. You
yeah,
have to go through customs. If you don't have these documents, they're not going to let you board. They're
yes,
doing the process online with you strictly so that they don't have to scan things into the computer and slow the process. They're going to make sure you have all of your documentation and then they'll let you go through security. You
yeah.
don't have it, you don't board.
That
So
is
please bring that.
such a great point. And we promise to get to this
Telling the
question.
parents' rooms linked. We are silver there. First time will I be able to? Selling parents' rooms are linked. We are silver. Only if one of the silver people are in their room.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you're linked or not. The room that's their first time will have to wait till their booking window. You can't book for them. Their names will be grayed out. You
Yes.
won't do it.
And while I'm pulling up the check-in, what about nursery? Do you need to get
Do you need
reservations for the
No,
nursery?
not the nursery.
Oh,
Do you need
sorry. The kids
reservations
club.
for the kids club? No, you don't need reservations. You will check them in just so that you don't have to do it when you get to the port and they just hand you their little magic band. Or
Mhm.
you don't even have to do that. You could do that right at the kids club, but you don't need to reserve times. No.
Agreed. And then we are going to start going through the check-in. So many awesome questions coming in, which we love. If for some reason we don't get to your question, that's the link again for Laura's page. Reach out to her. She's one of the most responsive people on this planet, and she's here to help you book your cruise and go through this entire process with you so that it doesn't stress you out. And again, her services are totally free. So let's start going through the check-in process. So you're finally able to check in for your cruise. You log into your My Disney account.
Yeah, and then you're going to see the check-in button lit up. It's not there until your check-in opens. So
Yeah,
at midnight, refresh the page. You might have
yeah,
to refresh it a few times to see that check-in link. And all you have to do is click that check-in button, and it brings you to the um,
to the
check-in page. So you're literally following the directions on the screen. You hit begin check-in.
and
Now, these are all of the boxes, the modules you have to complete. You can't get to that port arrival time or complete your cruise contract until you filled out those first 3 boxes. So there's no skipping them.
yeah,
So the first thing you're going to have to do is fill out guest information. The guest information is your address will be preloaded in there. Just make sure it's correct. Your
mhm,
email, your phone number, it's all going to be in there. The only thing they're going to ask you to put in is your emergency contact.
yeah,
And then here is where you need your identification. So you're going to have to upload a passport, a birth certificate or a Nexus card, and a security photo.
mhm,
And please note, if you're using a birth certificate, there will be another box that requires your photo ID for anyone 18
yeah,
or older. You're going to have to upload your license as well. The security photo is a picture of your shoulders up, facing forward,
mhm,
with nothing in the background. You can't have your ears in the background. They prefer it to be, I mean, it's a security photo. It's like your passport photo. So
yeah,
everybody's going to need one, and you upload it. And those are the instructions.
yes. And
No,
questions for you. Just going back super quick. We always get asked, do I actually need a passport for a Disney cruise?
okay. Yes and no. So if it's a closed loop, meaning it's going to start in one port, it's going to come right back to that same port. That's called closed loop. It's not required. I will tell
Mhm.
you it's strongly suggested because
Yeah.
you won't be able to fly home in an emergency from a foreign country, the Bahamas, a Caribbean island, without your passport. So
Mhm.
I always say get a passport, but it's not required.
Yeah.
However, if you are repositioning a ship or doing a one-way cruise, so the Panama Canal crossing or the transatlantic or moving the ship from New York back to Puerto Rico, those do in fact require a passport. You will be denied boarding if you don't have one.
Yes. And I know that a lot of times we get asked, well, could I do a passport or a passport book? But we always recommend a passport. There is a cost savings, but with a passport, you get
You
that
want the
international air
They
coverage.
need the passport. They won't take the card. It has to be the passport,
Yeah.
especially for that transatlantic crossing. You need a passport.
Yes. And I know that we'll get the question, my photo was denied. I don't understand. I followed the requirements. Do you just resubmit the same picture?
Resub Sometimes I do,
Yeah.
and because I know that it's happened to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"It's the same picture I used the last 3 cruises," and I'll
Yeah.
resubmit it. It really depends on who's looking at them.
Yeah.
If they saw the ears behind my head, they would probably not good. But you if you don't do it, by the time you get to port, they take one at the port. So don't
Yes. Much.
stress.
Yes. So, so true. And then we also get the question so often of, my cruise is in a week and my check-in is still pending. What do I do? Help.
Okay, don't worry. Um, you could be pending up until the day you arrive. As long as you have
Yeah.
your port arrival form, it doesn't matter. If it's still pending, it doesn't mean you can't go to port. They're going to check your documentation anyway. So don't
Yeah.
worry about that pending approval.
That's so true. And just so you guys know, so I had to renew my passport at the end of last year. It took exactly 9 weeks from the time that we did it, like to the day. But when that was happening, I didn't have my passport for my check in. So I went in and I did my whole check in process with my birth certificate and my ID. You can go back in while it's pending and update your documentation. So once I got my passport, I logged in, I went through the process again. All I had to do was update the guest information. And then when I got to the port, I didn't have to bring my birth certificate. I had my ID because, it's always in the wallet. But you have the documents that you check in with are what you need at the port. So if you check in with
Correct.
the birth certificate, you need the birth certificate. If you check in with the passport, you need the
You
passport.
need the passport. Don't switch documentation on them. They don't like that.
Yes.
There is a question, and this is important, just a clarifying question about the passport. We are doing Puerto Rico to Fort Lauderdale. Passport required? Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Oh, so true. And security photo, can it be your passport photo?
Mm-mm. Because there's no way to shrink it and get it clear. When you scan your key to the world to get back, and it is on the don'ts,
Yeah.
um, it has to be a current picture. They need to recognize you scanning off and scanning on.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why they're very specific.
Yes, it is not your passport photo. Do not upload that same one. It will get kicked back. So many great questions coming in. Let's try and power through this one. So
Okay.
you went through, you did your guest information, you submitted that. So now we're moving on to onboard account.
Okay, so this is where you have to tell Disney how you're going to pay for any charges that you make on board. So this is where you would add your credit card. And remember, if you have a Disney Visa, you're going to want to add it here because that gets you 20% off on
Mhm.
spa treatments on port days, not at sea days, on port days, 20% off any spa treatment. It also gets you discounts at the gift shop if you're a silver or a new sailor who doesn't have it's the Disney Visa discount.
Mhm.
Um, but it's going to say DV on the bottom of your key to the world. So I suggest if you have a Disney Visa, put it on. You can also tell them you're paying cash, and you can see here the limits. So you'll have to go down to the front desk and pay cash every time you reach, if you're on a 4-day cruise, $300. They'll start
Mm-hmm.
declining your purchases until you pay.
Yes.
And you can hit charges paid by another guest. So let's say grandma's treating you to the cruise and grandma's checking in and linked to you. If you hit charges paid by that other guest, then Disney knows that, and you'll check that you can't see it on the screenshot. But if you were to hit that, the linked staterooms are there, and you would
Mhm.
have to click who's paying for you.
Yes. And questions for you. If I have Disney gift cards, can I upload my Disney gift card somehow?
Not here. You can have your travel agent call them in as onboard credit. If you don't have a travel agent, you can call them in as onboard credit, or you could go to guest services when you board and add it to your account, but they can't be
Yes.
uploaded here.
Yes. And then what do I actually pay for ahead of time? Like if I'm booking Bippity Boppity, if I'm booking a tasting, do I pay for those before I
Nothing.
get? No.
Mm-mm. It's not like the other cruise lines. So whenever you book activities, write down the prices just so you know in your head what you've already spent,
Mhm.
because everything that you're booking is going to appear on your onboard account, and that's what you're paying for.
Yes, yes, that is so true. And they add up pretty quickly. So just things to keep in mind if you're on a vacation budget. And somebody said, I have a Disney Visa debit card. Can that work for discounts too, or does it have to be the credit card? I think it's both.
No, you can. It's a debit card. The debit
It is?
card is fine. They know the number, the digits. The first 8 digits are the same for a Disney Visa or the debit card. So the system will recognize that it's a Disney Visa. They both work for the discounts.
Awesome. And then, oh my goodness, so many great things. We can use just our birth certificate rather than a passport, right? It's birth and ID.
Birth and ID, unless you're a
Mhm.
minor who doesn't have an ID. So your kids just need a birth certificate. But
Yeah.
remember, that's the dangerous way to leave the country.
Yes, if anything happens, and if you guys, I will grab the link after, but Laura and I did a whole event on when things go wrong on a Disney cruise. Bad weather, medical evacuations, things happen with ships because technology. She talked through all the different situations. Having a passport helps with all of those.
All of those.
And then this is what it looks like, right? If you're going to be paying for other people.
Right. So your kids will be listed.
Mhm.
And you can uncheck the grant charging privileges. So if you don't want your 12-year-old to go to the gift shop and spend hundreds of dollars or buy the
Yeah.
drink of the day, non-alcoholic, all day long, you can say no charging privileges for your kids. So that's how that's done. And you can always change your mind once you board as well.
Yes. So once that is complete, then you move into the travel plans.
Travel plans.
Question for you quick. I know on
Sure.
here this was an adult only reservation, but there's somewhere in here where you would register your kids for kids club.
Yes,
Right.
that would be actually after the travel plans, right
Got
before
it.
you do the port arrival time.
Awesome. Okay, good to know. So if you're in your travel plans, this is what you're seeing.
Okay. So this is where you're telling Disney how you're getting to and from the cruise. So this is where you need to be specific, especially if you are using Disney transfers. They are going
Yeah.
to want to know where you're going. So are you flying in? If you click yes both ways, it's going to ask you specifics about your flight arrangements,
Yeah.
airline, flight number, departure time, arrival time, and then you're outbound, how you're getting to the port and how you're getting to the airport. Um, and after your cruise, where are you going? Are you going to a Disney resort? Are you going to the airport? They need all these specifics because that's how they plan the buses.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're on a bus. So, they need to know how many people are kind of going, where they're gauging that. And that's one of the reasons that you cannot go to port arrival time until this is complete.
And if you are taking a Disney transfer, do you still need to select a port arrival time?
Yes, you do.
Di-
Even though it won't matter, the
Yeah.
port arrival time forms now have your boarding group. So even
Mhm.
if the bus arrives and you have a boarding group of 10, you're still going to wait till boarding group 10 to board. That's how
Mhm.
Disney moves people. So it's not going to get you on the ship earlier. It might get you to port earlier. The Disney buses start running from the airport at 9. Um, I think you did a thing on that.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of how that runs from the airport.
Yeah.
But basically, you still will need to pick a port arrival time because you definitely need the boarding group time,
Yeah.
uh, the boarding group number. So,
Yes.
yes, the only people who won't be prompted to pick a port arrival time are concierge. If it's prompting you to pick a port arrival time, pick a port arrival time. That's
Yeah.
Disney saying, yes, you need one. So,
And maybe
yeah,
that will change for Pearl sometime soon, maybe, but
maybe
as of
coming, I'm
yeah,
thinking.
yes, but for now, if it says choose a port arrival, then choose it. You'll get there when the bus gets there, like Laura was saying. But if you get there too early, this happened for us on the last one. We got to the airport pretty early to take the Disney transfer from MCO to Port Canaveral, and we sat around for probably 35 minutes waiting for our boarding group. So just because I had an 11:30 boarding time did not mean I boarded at 11:30. It was closer to
No,
12. So keep that in mind.
exactly. And
And then,
yes, you can come later to the port arrival. That's no big deal. You can be late, but don't be early. They won't let you in the building. They line you up outside
yeah,
um, by signs with port arrival times, and they
yeah,
check. So you can arrive early, but you're just going to stand outside in the heat, and it's pretty hot. Got to be
yeah.
honest, it's hot down here.
I was gonna say, Laura knows, and we get this question pretty often too. Of okay, I'm traveling by, I'm taking an airplane. How do I check in for my flight on the way back if I don't have the Wi-Fi package? Will Disney do that for you?
They will probably assist you,
Mm-hmm.
but the app might actually work. I want to say the app might work if you do it on the app, because some of these apps do work on Disney Cruise Line. Um, but they will help you check in if it's something you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I was gonna
I
say, I know we are big lovers of Southwest.
Oh,
And
yeah, Southwest has to check in, right? Because it has something to do with when you guys board.
yes, so Disney has done that for us in the past. We put in our flight information, and you can always go to guest services to confirm. But they will. We've had them a billion times at this point do our check-in for us, and then actually print out our boarding passes and have
Mhm.
those delivered to our stateroom.
They
So
absolutely will help you. They're
yes,
never going to say no. It's
yes,
nothing to stress about.
agreed. And then we talked about Disney transfers. Do you recommend Disney transfers?
I think they're very convenient.
Mhm.
Um, they're from port. It really depends on what port you're at. And side note for people traveling in 2024, they have not added the ability to add Disney transfers yet. They haven't been
Oh,
loaded in the system. So
good to
um,
know.
we're still waiting for that to happen. But it's very convenient. But you're on a bus, especially leaving the Disney resort. So it's kind of like the old Magical Express where you went resort hopping
Yeah.
before you got on the road. If you're a person who gets frustrated with that, go private transfer.
Hmm.
Um, from the airport, I think it's very convenient. You just go
Yeah.
downstairs, get on the bus, your luggage was tagged before you got on the plane, they take it directly to the ship. I think of that as the old Magical Express.
Yes. And
It's just
we,
not
we
free.
do get the question of if I'm staying at a Disney resort and I'm taking transfers, how do I know what time the Disney bus is going to pick me
You
up?
get a letter on your door, under your door, the day before, and they'll tell you what
Perfect.
time your bus is and what time to have your luggage outside. The resort takes care of you there.
Yes. Easy peasy on that front.
And then here you
Wow.
go.
The
Here are
crown
your
jewel.
the crown jewel. And remember, that is not going to unlock until you
Yep.
finish the first 3 modules. And if you have children, you'll have that 4th kids club module. Now, note you can't complete check-in until you hit this cruise contract. And I think Rebecca had this checked as Disney transportation. So as you can see,
Yeah.
you're still forced to pick a port arrival time.
Yeah.
The earliest one available, as we see here, is 11:30 a.m. So that's about 30 minutes after the port generally opens up. So if you want that, you can click that. But if you want a more relaxing morning and walking onto
Yeah.
the ship, I would go with 12:30, 12:45. Totally up to you. If you notice the last available port arrival time is 3:15, that is because if you are later than that, you're out of luck.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
The
they need to get you on the ship.
they yeah, by 3:30 they've pulled the gangway away. We're doing muster drill at 4, which we can't sail until we do that. So you'll be
Yeah.
waving goodbye to the ship, which is why I say don't do Disney the day of your cruise, because if there's traffic, that's going to be an issue.
It's so
Um,
true. And just so you guys know, so in this case, I did select the 11:30 port arrival time, and I was still boarding group. I think it was 6 or 7. So don't stress if you stay up at midnight and you check in and you do everything you're supposed to, and this is still the first option for you, or you still get a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boarding group. You're going to be fine. Everybody gets on the
and
ship.
exactly. And there's a question right here in my that I see. When you're checking in, does it gray out port arrival times when they are no longer available? Nope, they just disappear. So there probably was an 11 to
Hmm.
11:15 and 11:15 to 11:30.
Yep.
They're gone now.
Yep.
So you'll only see available port times.
Yes, it's so true. And somebody asked the question, it's a good one, and I didn't think about it. What is a Disney transfer?
Oh, that is a good question. We say it and we're like, everybody should know what it is, but it makes sense that not everybody does. So
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to make this all inclusive and totally stress free. Disney transfer means we'll use Port Canaveral as an example because that's their home port.
Yeah.
The buses are wrapped in Disney Cruise Line.
Best.
Decors with portholes with the characters, and they are either at the resort property or they are at the airport. Only MCO, do not fly into Sanford. I've had clients make that mistake. I'm like,
Oh,
no,
no.
you have to fly into MCO.
This is why having a
Um,
travel agent is so, so, so important.
the buses will pick you up, take you to port, and when you disembark the ship, when you get back, it takes you back to the airport. So in 2023, because like I said, they're not available in 2024,
Hmm.
2023 pricing for this round trip service is $78 round trip from either the resort, Disney Resort, or MCO.
Hmm.
Miami, it's a little less expensive. They're not Disney wrap buses. Maybe they, I don't know what they're going to do when they move to Fort Lauderdale next year because it is a home port for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they do work with a bus company that wraps the buses, but it's the same thing, but it's less money because there's no tolls.
Cool.
Um, there's tolls on the way to Port Canaveral.
Got it.
So we pay for those.
Hmm.
Um, and then, so that's what a Disney transfer is, and we can add that to your reservation.
Yes, and definitely reach out to Laura if that's something that you're interested in. She can easily add it to your reservation for this year. It sounds like not so much in 24 yet,
Not yet.
but she can easily help you add that, prepaid gratuities, and some of these other things that you can pay for before you get on the ship, so that that bill at the end isn't as high.
Exactly. Transfers can't be added to any non-Disney resort or any Holiday Inn resort. You just need to work your way back to the airport if you want to use it. They usually have free shuttles.
Yeah, I was gonna say the airport, we like to stay off property. So we stay at a hotel not far from the airport and we just take that free shuttle back in the morning. Next time I'm just gonna have Laura come and pick me up and I'm gonna
Yep.
stay with Laura. But
Yep.
until then, um,
Yep.
and once you get through that port arrival time, which you just select, then you get to the all important cruise contract.
And this is where all of that stuff nobody likes to read, and then
Yeah.
they get angry. So this
Yeah.
is where they tell you that the port can be changed, your itinerary can change, that you're responsible for damages in your stateroom.
Mhm.
You're giving Disney permission to chopper you if you're injured. So this is like the important cruise contract that people really should read so that they know that Disney can change the itinerary if they have to, so that it stops the anger
Yeah.
on the flip side. So you read that, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to get to the check. And you have to be 18 or older to accept the terms.
Yeah.
And you hit complete check-in, which is so magical because you're done.
Right.
Like,
And that's when you,
and that's where you have your port arrival form. You need to print this and bring it with you, or take a screenshot on your cell phone. You can add this now to your wallet. They've made it very
yeah.
user friendly. The most important thing that you need to see here is the fact it has your boarding group number. So
Yes.
she's going to board when they call boarding group 6, even though she's taking that Disney bus.
Mhm.
Her arrival time, she blacked out, but I think she said she had chosen 11:30.
Yeah.
So this is what they check when you arrive at port. There's no lying about it. And you can't get on the ship before boarding group 6. You can get on
Yes.
7, 8, 9, 10, but you can't get on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes. And just so everyone knows, so these blocked out things, these are the QR codes. So you can, like Laura said, you can screenshot those or add them to your wallet.
And they
Just
actually scan those at port because you don't have a room
yes.
key.
Yep.
So those are the QR codes they use to scan you onto the ship for the first time because your room key is on your door when your room is
Yes.
ready.
Took the
So
words
this
right
is
out of
how
my
you,
mouth.
yep, you actually get on the ship using these. So if you hit the add it to mobile wallet,
Mhm.
you'll get the QR code in your mobile wallet. But that's why you need this piece of paper, because it's proving you can arrive, it's
Yeah.
proving your boarding group number, and it's how they scan you on the ship for the first time.
And it says here in big letters, do not pack this in your suitcase. Have it with you in your carry-on along with this travel document. So like Laura said, if you check in with your passport, you bring your passport. If you check in with your kids, if your kid's 16 and they're driving and they have their ID, that's what you're using, right? Or I guess at that point, they'd probably have a passport too. But whatever you
Correct.
use to check in, you have that and your port arrival form ready, aim fire at the port.
At the literally when you walk up to enter the port, you need to have these things. They're going to ask you, do you have your documentation? And they're going to look, and they're never going to
Yeah.
let you into the building without it. So I can't stress enough, don't pack this form.
Nope.
Don't forget. Well, you'll get an email copy. So worst
Yeah.
case scenario, you can pull this form up on your email, but don't ever forget your documents at home. That's
Are they still doing the healthcare questionnaire?
They are. You get that
Okay.
email in the morning and it's done on the app. There, you don't
Easy.
have to handwrite them anymore. You get an email, you go into the
Beautiful.
app, you fill out the health questionnaire, the old typical questions. You're
Oh,
good.
love that. We hope this was helpful. If it was, please let us know. As you guys can tell, Laura is amazing and just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to Disney cruises. So if you have not booked your first cruise yet and you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you just need help in general, I will say we've had this a couple of times this week where people have reached out and they booked a cruise less than 30 days ago and they haven't paid in full. You can still transfer that reservation to Laura. You get to take advantage of all of her services. You get her amazing personality and wisdom. And of course, she can help you navigate this entire process.
You're
But
welcome.
what,
And you get onboard credit. I know everybody
oh,
wonders about that. So
yes. Oh, that's so true. Now we have so many questions.
let's fire answer them really quickly because I see
Okay.
some of these and they're daunting to me. Uh,
Oh, I
Kim,
was gonna say so many.
Kim, I am coming in late to this video. Question: we were staying at a Disney resort day before the cruise. Do I need to be on the computer at 12:01 to get an early board time? Stop right there. You should have checked in. I don't know if you've sailed before, but if you haven't, you have to check in 30 days before the cruise, and that's when you'll have your port arrival time. That should all be set before you even get to the Disney um, resort itself. You should have this all done 30 days before, and then the resort will give you the time to meet the bus if you're taking DCL transfers.
Yes. And what about this one? Any tips for snagging really popular excursions? I think you said it before, that prioritize, right?
Prioritize. So, if you get to your booking day and your booking window opens, you might want to stay up at midnight if you want something this popular,
Mhm.
and go right for that.
Yeah.
Make that your priority. I wish there was something we can do to stop them from selling out, but again, people cancel them. So if
Mhm.
it's sold out on the day you're booking, there's still X amount of days before the cruise. People cancel. People decide they don't want to go dog sledding. Maybe it was over their budget, and they drop back into inventory. And again,
Yeah.
check once you board.
Yes. Remember that when people get kind of trigger happy when they're booking thing, when their window opens, they're like, I want this, 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 this. And then they do the math on how much it's going to cost them and realize that they can book another cruise for all these extras, which is fine.
Correct.
But don't, there was a cabana that opened up on our last sailing 3 weeks before because somebody did the math and they were over their budget. So don't.
Yeah, you just you always get it. Oh,
Yes.
you could book the placeholder the minute you step on the ship. It's
Yes.
right in your app on the first page.
And just
Just
make
do it right
sure
away.
if you want to transfer it to your travel agent, whether it's Laura or someone else, make sure you do that. If it's not automatic in the app, sometimes agents might fall off. If it's not automatic, make sure you do that within 30 days of booking, or else
And
they are locked
please,
out.
because the system's been dropping agents off, no matter who your agent is, if you've booked a placeholder, you might want to send them a text and say, I've booked a placeholder, because
Yeah,
if they fell off, they're not going to get an email. And I've had this happen. I didn't know they booked a placeholder, and they were looking for a second placeholder to book a second cruise. And I'm
yeah,
like, I don't see one. And they're like, I know we booked it. And I called DCL, and they're like, it's never in your name.
yeah.
So, and it was too late. So make sure you tell your travel agent that you did book it, just to make sure.
Ooh. What is a
Um,
placeholder?
Placeholder. That is where you put $250 down. You have 2 years to use it. That 250 goes toward your deposit, and you get 10% off your next cruise. And if you cruise 7 or more nights, the deposit is 10% instead of 20%. So
Yes,
it helps a little bit. It's the
agreed.
only way you're going to get a discount.
True.
Are there areas for people with disabilities like sensory difficulties?
I don't know that there are
I
at the port. There are definitely more quiet areas of the ship.
I don't know that the port area, and if that's the case, I would choose a later port arrival time where
Yeah.
the port is, they're moving people onto the ship quicker. The boarding
Mhm.
group numbers are just flowing. Um, that on the ship, there'll always be quiet areas you can find,
Yeah.
quiet places. The Grand Hall is quiet all day long. It's loud before dinner.
Yeah.
Um, there's always going to be a quiet place. So
Yes.
yes, there are places for that, but at the port, not so much.
And we did get the question submitted ahead of time for wheelchair accessibility. Are the ports accessible? Are the transfers accessible? And then is that something that you can help book if somebody needs like an accessible stateroom? Can you help with
Yes,
that?
of course. Yeah. So there's only X amount of accessible staterooms on the ship. So it's important that you tell your travel agent that you're looking for one of them. There are
Yeah.
a couple ocean view, there are a couple veranda staterooms that are accessible.
Mhm.
I saw somebody say they need a wheelchair. Do they have them on the ship? They might have a couple, but you can rent one and it gets
Yeah.
delivered to port. Um, there's a
Yes.
company, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they do deliver to the port. And then you have the wheelchair for the length of the cruise, and then they pick it up from the port. They do that with scooters as well. But to count on the cruise line having one for you all the time, no, I wouldn't.
And then we can just use our birth certificate rather than a passport, right?
As long as it's closed loop, yes.
And then can you extend a placeholder?
No. So what
Mm,
happens is I have a placeholder that ends March of 2025. So that means that's when it's going to end, and it will auto cancel and you'll get your refund of 250. So Disney's
mhm.
not going to keep your money. So my suggestion to you, you'll lose the 10% off. But if you
Mhm.
don't want it to auto cancel, just book something and then move it.
Yeah.
You could always move a cruise as long as it's not paid and within the pay in full window. Um, you can extend the placeholder, but if you don't want to lose that reservation number, book now, and then just keep pushing it out.
Yes. When can you check in?
We went over that, so that depends on your Castaway level. So it's Pearl 33. Oh no, I lied. Okay, hold on. It's so complicated now with the new levels. Okay,
No.
so hold on. Pearl, it's 123. Oh no, check-in. We're doing check-in. 40 days prior to sailing. Platinum is 38 days prior to sailing. Gold is 35 days prior to sailing. Silver is 33 prior to sailing. And new cruisers are 30 days.
Yes, and it's all at midnight Eastern.
Yes.
And then let's see. Need a passport. We already asked this one.
Placeholders are fully refundable. If you got a
Yep.
placeholder from our last cruise, that's something we just give whichever agent, as long as it's within 30 days.
Yeah.
Transfers have to be within 30 days. Can you
Yes.
take vapes onto the cruise? You can. Just be sure you're doing it in the smoking section and not your room, not your balcony.
Yes. They do have
Follow
cameras
the
up there.
smoke. They have cameras. You know,
Yeah.
nobody wants to be banned from a Disney cruise. So
No.
you can bring them, but you have to treat it as a cigarette.
Yes. International passenger. I have to take my passport with me all the time when we go to ports, or only the key to the world card. So when you're getting off the ship, do you actually need your passport, or do you just need your
You
key to
need
the
a
world?
photo ID and your key to the world.
Yes.
But because you have the key to the world, the people at the ports in custom know you're on the ship. So, and they know they checked your paperwork. So the key to the world acts as that passport. And then you need a photo ID just so that they see it's you.
And something that I like to do, we take photocopies of our passports. So we leave our passports in the safe in the room, but just in case for some reason, we'll bring that copy of the passport
Very
with us.
smart. Very smart.
Just some food for thought there. Let's see. Oh gosh.
Inside the main dining rooms for dinner, I mean, as quiet as it can be. The dining rooms they're going to be loud.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can do about the volume. There's a lot of people in the dining room. So, and there's shows in some of them. So I would suggest maybe room service, cabanas, the pool decks. You can ask the servers for you to take the food out of the dining room. If it's too loud, they'll cover it up. But yeah, those dining rooms, they're loud.
Yes. And if you do need, like, if there are sensory issues, you can work with Laura or your travel agent to maybe put you in a more quiet part of the dining room. There are definitely accommodations that can be made. Is it mandatory to book any extras? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You won't be missing out on anything. Enjoy the cruise.
Yes. So many great questions.
Oh, magic. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just
group number. How do we receive it? So it's your check-in day. You're going to go through the whole check-in process. And when you get to the end, you're going to pick your port arrival time. It will give you a boarding group number, regardless of your DCL transportation.
Yes.
I think I answered this one. You can go late, but you can't go earlier, or you can't get in earlier. You can go earlier, but you're standing outside.
Yes.
Anything new about back to back? No, there's no testing, so it's that much easier. So you disembark the ship from your first one. You have an orange card. You go outside. They'll bring the back-to-backers into the port area once everybody's disembarked the ship. They have to make sure the ship is cleared from passengers. They bring you into the cruise terminal. You check in for cruise 2, go through security, go up the stairs, and they'll bring you on as soon as the ship clears.
Yes, so easy. Highly recommended. What's the best way to get from Port Canaveral to Walt Disney World?
Port Canaveral from Walt Disney World.
Sorry, yes, thank you.
I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, Port Canaveral from Walt Disney World. I prefer private transfers. The Disney buses don't start to run until around noon. So if I'm at Walt Disney World, I do private transfers, but you can also do Disney transportation,
And is that something
whatever
that
you
you
want.
can help with
Mhm.
coordinating private transfers?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, so many great questions. Good one. Will the port arrival form transfer the Disney band? Do
Not
we know?
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. You set up the Disney band once you get on the ship. It's not quite as intuitive. I
Yeah.
was on the first sailing on the Wish a few weeks ago, where they started not the testing, but the actual sailing. We ordered them. We were the first cruise to use them, and they had the whole tech team there. So they actually linked it for us. It's not like my Disney experience easy. So once you board, the Magic Band starts working.
Perfect. What about this guy?
Do you check in before booking it? Check in is after your booking date. You do
Yes.
have to be paid in full. So
Oh, good
if you,
point.
this is important, and I probably should have said this. So let's say you're platinum and you can check in at whatever I said, 40 days. That's before your actual pay in full date. So you have to be paid in full
Yeah.
in order to book those activities.
Yes. That would be a big, big letdown. You'd be
Mhm.
calling your travel agent real, real fast to get those payments put through. And then let's do two more questions and
Okay.
then let's call it a night.
And then we call it a night. We have Disney Magic Bands from the park, 8 years old. No. The
No.
ones from 8 years old are not the Magic Band Plus, and the Disney Cruise Line ones are Magic Band Plus. So no, they won't work from 8 years ago.
And then what about this one? If your reservations or staterooms are tied together, if you book an event, is every stateroom included?
You will be able to, when you're booking that event, if your staterooms are linked. So let's say your in-laws and your parents are sailing together. You've linked those 3 staterooms. When you get to your activity window and you go and you click on something you want to book, you could click everybody's names that you're
Mm,
linked to and grab it for everybody, as long as you're all in the same booking window.
yes, so true. Great point.
Yes, they still scan QR codes when boarding because your room keys are still given to you when your room is ready.
Yes, that's and up there in a little fish extender, fish or starfish or whatever it is.
Usually it's a cute little cardboard envelope
Yeah,
with your stateroom number. You open it up, your room keys are there, and you're on your way.
yes, so easy. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Laura. I know this was a
You're
long one,
welcome.
but it seems like this was really helpful. If this was helpful for you guys, please let us know. Laura is amazing and so willing to help all of you. And, you know, it's a great way to support a small business, right? And not have to pay anything extra. Working with a travel agent
Exactly.
doesn't cost you a dime. It's actually already included in your cruise fare, whether you use one or not. So if this was helpful, please feel free to book that Cruise with Laura or your placeholder. And we will see you all on board. Thank you, Laura, so much.
You're
Bye all.
welcome. Have a good night, everyone.